And I give floor to the Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель.
Thank you, Chairman. We're grateful to you for conducting today's meeting. The issue of the reform of the UN Security Council is not only one of the most important, but one of the most complex on the agenda of the United Nations. This is due to the fact that we're talking about a body which, in accordance with the UN Charter, bears the main responsibility for maintaining international peace and security. We're grateful to the permanent representatives of Luxembourg and the United Arab Emirates for their work as co-facilitators during the previous session of the General Assembly. We look forward to a rapid appointment of co-facilitators for the current session. Mr. Chairman, today's meeting will kick off discussions on the reform of the Security Council at the 74th session of the General Assembly. The discussion of this topic has continued for a number of years. Overall, there have been 15 rounds of intergovernmental negotiations. Member states have managed to make some progress in the area of reform. However, we have not yet seen the possibility of a universal solution which could be able to satisfy every majority. An approach of the main players in the reform sphere often still diverge, sometimes diametrically. In these conditions, we do not see any alternative to continuing during this session of the General Assembly patient, step-by-step work on making our positions converge. Our position is well known. Russia, as a permanent member of the Security Council, notes the need to endow this body with a more representative and balanced character, first and foremost by increasing the representation in this body of developing states from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. We are in favor of righting a historical wrong with regard to Africa. The number of seats in the council doesn't of this continent does not correspond to its current role in international affairs or the overall number of African states. At the same time, efforts to expand the council should not have a negative impact on its effectiveness or ability to quickly react to emerging challenges. In this context, we are in favor of maintaining a compact character of the Security Council. Its optimal number should not exceed the low 20s. For us, it's unacceptable to put forward any ideas that lead to a reduction of the prerogatives of the current permanent members of the Security Council, including the veto. We should recall that the current format is an important factor that encourages the Council to seek balanced solutions, and the use of veto and its threat have often spared the UN from being associated with very dubious ventures. Mr. Chairman, the process of reforming the Security Council should be the ownership of all member states without exception, and its ultimate formula should have the broadest possible support of all members of the organization. If it won't be possible to achieve consensus, then in any case, we should ensure that we have a much broader support of member states than the legally necessary majority of 2/3 in the General Assembly. We are convinced that the issue of reforming the Security Council cannot be dealt with through a purely arithmetic way by proposing various models of voting to ensure a minimal number of votes. Such a result would hardly add authority or effectiveness to the Security Council or contribute to strengthening the United Nations. At the same time, we are ready to examine any sensible version of expanding the composition of the Security Council, including one based on the compromise, a so-called interim solution. If such a compromise will be based on the broadest possible support within the United Nations. Progress in reforming the Security Council cannot be achieved by imposing on member states texts proposed by co-facilitators, any kind of negotiated documents or any others, or any other kind of initiatives. Previous sessions of the General Assembly have shown that any attempts to force a solution end up being in vain without having the broad support of member states. Progress in reforming the Security Council will only depend on the political determination of the member states and their readiness to embrace a sensible compromise. And we call on everyone to heed this basic principle. We expect that the efforts of the President of the General Assembly and co-facilitators of the negotiations will be aimed at contributing to moving the negotiations forward while ensuring that member states retain ownership. This kind of painstaking work should be conducted in a calm, transparent, and inclusive way without any arbitrary time frames. We all have to understand clearly that in these efforts there should be no artificial deadlines or any ideas that we can resolve this complex issue with the stroke of a pen. Mr. Chairman, Russia's commitment to achieving the results in the framework of the current format of discussions remains unchanged. The current intergovernmental platform of negotiations has unique and universal legitimacy for all the broad range of issues pertaining to reform. Moving away from it could lead to the whole negotiating architecture collapsing, which would take us many years back. In the run-up to the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, we have to demonstrate unity of the world in dealing with global problems, especially given that in current turbulent conditions in international relations, intergovernmental negotiations on reforming the Security Council should not create new dividing lines between member states. Let's move forward while at the same time remembering risks and dangers. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Russian Federation.